What a beautiful morning. Wonder what the forecast is like. 100% chance of thunder? That's an odd forecast.
I just now realized this side was one turn out on the idle mixture screw, and this side was 2 turns out. So I went ahead and backed them both in and just did 1.5 turns for both of them. We're gonna try that. We're gonna fire it up here.
I like that it's holding pretty steady, so we're gonna go with that. There we go, we're getting some heat in it now. Finally.
Hello guys, welcome back to another video, and this is a Ford FE390. Big block, big power. And it sounded pretty good, if you ask me. If any of you guys have been following along with this, you would know that this came out of a '69 Ford Torino, sitting right over there on the lift. Now it doesn't have a rear axle in it, but it's all rebuilt now, pretty well. Had an oddity with it. We had a Cobra Jet head on one side here, and we had a regular 390 head on the other side. So I had to locate some heads. These are 2 C8 AEH heads off of a 68 F100. They're supposed to be decent flowing heads, I think, from what I looked up and what I read, so it's probably alright. Works good enough for me. On top we got a Holley carburetor here that might be leaking a little bit, I don't know. Anyway, got a Holley 600 CFM vacuum secondaries. One day I want to get like a 700 CFM double pumper. We got really cool long tube headers. These are Hooker Super Comp headers. This is the stock 390 GT manifold from 1969. It actually codes for a 69 Mustang, but as it is a 4-barrel, so that's always really good. We got an HEI distributor up front, and I know a lot of Ford guys don't like running GM HEI distributors, but they work really well so far. I'm very impressed with it. I saw one guy who talked about HEI distributors. He said, before I had points, I had to crank it over. Now that I have an HEI, I just have to turn it on. And I think that's really about right, because I really don't have to crank this thing at all, and it just turns right on for me. So obviously I took a little bit of adjustment with the idle mixture screw and a couple other screws here, but we got it tuned in all right, so it fires right up right now. I don't know if I'm trying too rich or lean. I'm not really for sure on that. We're pulling 20 inches of mercury on idle, which I think is pretty good. I'm not 100% for sure on that, but sounds pretty good. You guys may have saw we had a little bit of a smoking problem over here, and I do believe that was because we had a loose valve cover. But yeah, so in the last video I posted, we fired it up. It ran like trash because we didn't have our floats set right, and it was just pumping fuel right down the intake basically. So it was running super rich enough to coat the entire inside of my headers black. So that's nice. But we got that figured out, thankfully. had a lot of help from my family, helped me figure this out. But we got the float set right now. And I think one of our problems we may have had was this intake is like this level. Whenever the whole cart's sitting level, the intake is definitely not level. So we jacked up the front of this cart here first and put some blocks under it. So now the carburetor sits pretty level with it. And I think that might have been one of our problems too, because the needle and the seat and the float weren't behaving properly. So one of the biggest questions I had with this thing is, what kind of red line are we looking at? Because the tachometer from the factory doesn't have a red line on it. It just goes to $6 grand and that's it. We're gonna dyno this motor, and before we take it up there, we want to obviously give it a little bit of RPM in it. So earlier, just now I just put 4,000 was about when I stopped at. I'm a little bit scared to go any higher than that for right now, but looked into it and read a bunch of forums and looked at what a bunch of guys had said before. They said the bottom end can handle quite a bit, the short block. The biggest weakness is the cast pistons, and yeah, I can agree with that, because these are probably some really cheap cast pistons that I got, because this has been bored, or a 390 block, but it's been bored 40 over. Stock crank, stock rods. They're the C7 AEB rods, which are good rods supposedly, from a book I have anyway. I don't know. There's been some oddities with this motor, and you can check it out on my channel, some of my other videos. I'm just glad I have a 4-barrel intake, honestly. That's good enough for me. We rebuilt the water pump, but I'm getting off track. I don't remember what I was talking about. Oh yeah, RPM, where the red line is in this thing. So what's going to happen past 5,500, from what I read, is it'll just be valve float, and it's just not going to make any more power after that. It's just going to be noise. But when we had the heads rebuilt, they put in a little heavier springs, so hopefully that might help it with a little higher RPM. Maybe, who knows, we'll see. In my imagination, higher springs will give us more RPM. I don't really care about RPM though. Ford rated this at the factory, 320 horsepower at 4,800 RPM and 427 pound-feet of torque at 3,200 RPM. So we already met our maximum pound-feet of torque probably when we pulled it up to 4,000 earlier. Now I'm guessing that we're going to make a little more torque all the way up to 5,000 because of our headers. I'm hoping anyway, because obviously these are way better flowing headers than the manifolds from the factory, which my manifolds were junk, so I had to get some kind of exhaust. Headers make a V8 look awesome. Yep. No ifs and buts about it, headers look cool. So once we get it on the dyno, we can really see whenever the horsepower kind of falls off. You know, I'm really hoping we get 5,500 RPM out of it, and it still makes power up to that point. You know, maybe it makes 320 horsepower up to 5,500 RPM. You know, I don't know. We'll have to see. I'll definitely let you guys know when that happens. So I'm gonna give you guys a little tour of our run stand, and then I'll talk about the rest of the car. Starting at the bottom, this was a cart from something that we had, and we kind of cut it up and made a run stand out of it, and it looks pretty cool. We do have one leaky freeze plug. As you can see, this morning I put another dab of RTV on the bottom there, and we'll see if it leaks now. It probably still will, but we'll see what happens. I don't really want to have to pop it back out and fix it, but we'll see. Got our battery here. It's got 800 cold crank amps because we're pushing 397 cubic inches, I think, with this thing at 40 over. So it's supposed to have 2 cold crank amps per cubic inch, and this thing cranks it over pretty good. So I'm happy with that. This is the original radiator, and I was totally expecting to have to get a new one because this thing has quite a few holes in it, I guess. Well, I guess there isn't holes, but there was at one point. They fixed them because this thing has not leaked a single drop, and we've run it for every bit of 20, 40, probably about an hour's runtime on it now, and it has not leaked a drop. And that's even at least that's a old radiator cap, and it hasn't leaked either. So I'm honestly very impressed with this whole deal. It's worked out pretty good. Up front here, we got our stand. We just kind of rigged something up really quick. It's kind of wobbly a little bit, but it does the job. So here's our ignition switch. Turn that on, gives it power to everything. And this is our crank button. And you turn that on, and it cranks her over. All right, so let's move on from the run stand. Let's move on to what else I've been doing. We got one wheel painted up there, some high gloss black. And we got our hogshead right there, another wheel painted up. Yep, there she is. It's gonna look pretty cool in the car, I think. So yeah, as you can see, the rear end has been deleted out of it. We cut that out of there because there is some rust and we're gonna fix it. Got these AMD frame rail patches. We have 2 of them. One for this side, as you can see, and one for this side. I'll cut that out there, put new ones in. Got our remanufactured gas tank over here. I wire wheeled the heck out of it and painted her all black with some rust preventative paint. Got our transmission over here on top. When I dropped the pan off, I had a pan to catch the oil pan over there to catch it, but it kind of splashed and made a mess. So, but got some more transmission parts over here. Got a pan gasket. We got more gaskets and more seals and gaskets, and a vacuum modulator. When I dropped the pan, I'll put a picture of what it looked like, but I was really hoping that it'd be good because I do not want to have to rebuild the entire transmission. But based on what I found and the research I did, the transmission looked good. The fluid was still red. There wasn't metal chunks or any sort of really bad wear in the pan. There was just a real thin film of gray. And I assume that's just clutches wearing out over time. Because I'm guessing this thing has about 50,000 miles on it, is what I'm guessing. So we're going to replace the front seal there and the tail shaft seal. I'm not for sure how to go about doing the tail shaft. I need to look into that a little bit. And then of course the vacuum modulator under here, but I got the trash bag so I don't get dirt under there because the pan is not on it right now. 2 hubcaps about cleaned up. Cobra Jet head, hit me up if you want it. The car is very dusty right now because I done quite a bit of wire wheeling under here. That's my plan anyway. So we're going to wire wheel the entire bottom of this and paint it with some rust preventative stuff. And I've got this section done so far, as well as the other wheel well. Yeah, I got this wheel well pretty good. I think we're going to hit it with some paint here soon and finish that wheel well up. Got a couple patches we need to make. I'm going to have to get some sheet metal first. Here we got our pan. I cleaned it up and hit it with a wire wheel, and there's several large dents in it, and I went ahead and got those out. Made it pretty flat again. As you can see, it's nice and clean, so I think that'll be pretty good. If any of you guys have a Torino and you need some Grand Touring emblems for the door, hit us up. They're 20 bucks. My brother 3D printed these, and we just thought we'd throw some clear coat on this one to see if that would look any different. I was kind of hoping for a sticker, but I didn't get one. Oh well. The last piece we're waiting on is for a rubber O-ring that goes in the actual yoke housing here. But we did set the preload on ring gear, and we set the pinion preload on the pinion. So now it's got like 15 thousandths lash on the 15 thousandths lash on the ring gear, and we ended up with 15 inch-pounds of preload on the yoke. I don't have a rolling torque wrench like some people, so we had to go to O'Reilly's and we found a 1/4 inch drive, 0 to 80 inch-pound torque wrench. And the funny thing is this nut in here is 11/16, and I got a 1/4 inch torque wrench. And I don't have the adapter for that, so my brother 3D printed a special adapter to adapt a 1/4 inch to a 3/4 inch. And that worked pretty well. I figured since we only had to measure 15 inch-pounds that the plastic wouldn't give that much, and I don't think it did. So today's video is just a quick update for you guys. Really hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to this beast run, and I think it runs pretty darn good. So hit me up in the comments if you have any thoughts about this thing running at all, or pretty soon this thing will be back in the car and we can do some burnouts. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching.